The party shimmered with polished laughter and expensive cologne. Glasses clinked, a jazz trio hummed in the corner, and Malik stood near the drinks table, watching Rachel from across the room. Her laughter, too loud, too familiar, floated. Above the chatter, as she leaned in toward, a tall man in a tailored navy suit, white, rich hands resting on his whiskey like he owned the room. Malik wasn't the jealous type. He believed in trust, but this wasn't about trust. It was about the way Rachel touched the man's arm when she laughed, the way she didn't introduce Malik, the way her eyes didn't search for him once all night. He waited until the Uber ride home. The streetlights strobed across his skin like accusations. She scrolled her phone in silence, tipsy and Finally, he said, "You didn't have to act like I wasn't there." Rachel looked up, smirking faintly. "Relax, it's not my fault other men want me." She paused, then shrugged. "Maybe you should step up." The words didn't just sting, they punctured something old, something buried. He remembered the high school counselor who told him to aim lower, the waiter who always handed the check to Rachel, the colleague who said he was well spoken for a guy like you. "Step up," Malik echoed, voice steady, but breaking underneath. From where she didn't answer, she turned away, unbothered, the city lights reflecting in her earrings like tiny fires. Inside his chest, Malik didn't just feel rejected, he felt misread, again, reduced, not by one night, or one man, or one careless woman, but by every room where he'd had to audition for basic respect. He didn't speak again that night, but as he sat on the edge of their bed, shoes still on, he stared into the dark with a hollow stillness. She was already asleep when he whispered to the silence, "I've been stepping my whole life. I just didn't realize I was dancing alone." And in that quiet ache, the story truly began. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The next morning, the apartment was too quiet. No music from Rachel's morning playlists. No clink of coffee mugs. Just Malik, sitting at the kitchen table, still in last night's clothes, staring at the gift bag she'd forgotten to open, tissue paper, crisp, untouched. He replayed the night before, but soon, his memory stretched further. He remembered the first time Rachel introduced him to her friends. "This is Malik," she said brightly. "He's got this vibe, you'll see." They all giggled. One leaned in and whispered, "God, your skin is flawless. I wish I could tan like that." He laughed then. He always laughed. He remembered her, fingers in his hair, tugging playfully. "It's so wild. You should straighten it sometime, just to switch it up." He remembered the time she told him, "You're so articulate, not like," and then stopped, smiling like she hadn't said too much. Each moment sharpened now, cutting deeper in retrospect. He hadn't seen it before, or maybe he had. Maybe love had made it easier not to look too closely. He got up, walked into the bathroom, and stood in front of the mirror. His eyes were heavy, his jaw tight. He'd worn himself down trying to be what she wanted. Confident, smooth, urban, but not too much. A curated version of himself that fit on her arm at galleries, rooftops, brunches. A statement. A rebellion she could control, but not a partner. He was never at the center of the story. Just an accessory that made hers more interesting. Malik reached up and ran his hands through his coils, messy, thick, unapologetic. He didn't need to cut anything off. He just needed to stop being seen through her eyes and start seeing himself again in that moment. He knew the next chapter wouldn't be about her. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The steak was medium rare, the wine imported, the lighting dim, calculated for ambience, but Malik barely touched his plate. He was seated at a long dinner table with Rachel's colleagues and her parents, who were in town just to see how serious things had gotten. It was supposed to be a celebratory night, her promotion, their future, all of it. Instead, it felt like a showcase, and he was the featured exhibit. Someone raised a glass and said, "Rachel's glowing lately. You've really domesticated her, huh?" The laughter that followed was light, casual. Rachel chuckled too, hand brushing his arm like punctuation. Malik smiled, but something inside him folded, like pressed linen under a hot iron. He'd heard versions of it before. "You're so well-spoken. Your parents must have raised you right. You're not like the others." The others. He remembered sitting at Rachel's family dinner a year ago. Her uncle had asked if he played basketball. When Malik said no, the man blinked, surprised. "Huh, well, good for you, focusing on books instead." Another memory flickered his old boss, calling him a breath of fresh air in the office. "You bring something to the team, Malik. You've got that edge but in a controlled way." It wasn't a compliment. It was a leash. He hadn't been accepted. He'd been vetted, approved, labeled safe, not threatening. The kind of black man who could be welcomed into wine lounges and summer cabins without anyone clutching their purse too tightly. Respectable, contained, but never equal. Back at the table, Malik quietly reached for his water. Around him, laughter echoed, but it floated above him, detached. He looked at Rachel. She was smiling, unaware, or maybe not, for the first time. Malik understood. Being the good one was never about who he was. It was about how close he could come to who they wanted him to be, and he was done being their exception. The next time he spoke, it would be on his own terms. Asterisk, asterisk, the city hadn't woken yet. Malik sat on the edge of his couch, barefoot, wrapped in silence and a hoodie that smelled like last night. The skyline beyond his apartment window blinked slowly, streetlights dimming as morning crept in. His phone lay beside a mostly untouched glass of water. He picked it up, thumb hovering over Amina's contact. They hadn't spoken deeply in weeks, not because they fought just life, space, and unspoken pain. But now, something inside him needed the anchor only she could offer. He pressed record. "Hey Mina, I need to get this out. I keep thinking, when did I start believing that being chosen meant I had to shrink? That love had to hurt like this?" His voice cracked. "I kept smiling through her jokes, laughing when I should have said something, pretending I wasn't bruised just to be accepted. But love shouldn't feel like erasure." He paused, breathing shaky. Hours later, Amina replied with a voice note of her own, soft but firm. "They may love your rhythm, Malik, but not your blues. And if they can't hold both, it's not love, it's performance. You taught me that. Now remember it for yourself." He listened to it twice. Then again, something opened. Malik reached for his old journal, the one he hadn't touched since college. Its pages were yellowed, the spine frayed. He began to write. Not to explain, not to prove, just to remember who he was when no one was watching. Poems, fragments, half-thoughts, all of it spilled from him like truth, long held hostage. Outside, the sun finally crested the rooftops. The city stirred, but for the first time in days, Malik felt still on his own terms. The cafe buzzed with weekend chatter, mugs clinking, steam hissing, low laughter rising like static. Malik sat by the window, arms folded, watching pedestrians drift by as Rachel slid into the seat across from him, late and already anxious. She didn't start with, "I'm sorry." Instead, I've been thinking. I didn't mean it the way it sounded, Malik. You know me. You're just more sensitive than I realized. Malik didn't blink. He'd rehearsed this moment, not to fight, but to finish. She continued, fiddling with her napkin, her voice rising like she was auditioning for forgiveness. I felt attacked that night, too. I just wanted you to show up, to be more. What? He asked quietly, slicing through her spiral. She hesitated, more present, like confident. You kinda disappeared at that party. Malik exhaled through his nose, steady. He glanced at her hands manicured. Twitchy and finally met her eyes. You didn't love me, he said evenly. You loved the idea of me, the version that looked good in pictures, that made you feel edgy but safe, the version who smiled through humiliation so you wouldn't have to explain your choices. Rachel's mouth opened slightly, but no sound. Came, he stood, slipping his coat over his shoulders. No need to keep talking, he added gently. This isn't about punishing you. It's about choosing myself. And with that, Malik walked out into the cold air, leaving Rachel and the half-sipped lattes behind. He didn't look back. Not because it didn't hurt, but because he finally knew the difference between pain and clarity. Asterisk. The lights above the stage weren't harsh, but they were hot. Malik stood still, mic in one hand, crumpled paper in the other. The open mic night was held in a tucked-away bookstore, one of those places where the walls smelled of ink and protest, and the people actually listened. He swallowed. Then he began. Step up, she said, as if survival wasn't already a sprint, as if my dignity hadn't been traded for comfort in rooms I didn't decorate. The words cracked through him, not loud, but sharp like bones realigning. He spoke of coded language dressed as compliments, of walking into boardrooms and being called articulate, of Rachel's laugh when someone said, "You clean up nice," for a brother, of how invisibility wasn't silence, it was exhaustion. Wearing a mask, he didn't rage. He revealed, as the last verse echoed. He looked up not seeking approval, but sharing space. So no, I won't step up into your reflection. I'll stand in mine. A pause. Then applause. Not thunderous. Not polite, but sincere. It wrapped around him like something earned. Amina stood in the back, arms crossed, eyes full. She nodded slowly, like she'd been waiting to see this version of her brother return. A young poet fist-bumped him on the way down. Another handed him a flyer for a writers' collective. Malik sat at the edge of the stage, chest rising. For the first time, his skin didn't feel like a battlefield, felt like home. The room hadn't changed. He remembered Rachel once telling him, "You talk like you're trying not to scare people." Tonight, he wasn't trying at all, and somehow, in a room of strangers, he had never felt more visible. He exhaled, long and free, because the mic had carried more than sound. It had carried him. The room glowed with warm candlelight, dim, deliberate. Floor cushions formed. A circle in the middle of the community space. No podiums, no hierarchy, just breath, silence, and space for truth. Malik sat cross-legged, his palms resting on his knees. Around him, young men of color, some barely 20, others nearing 40, shifted awkwardly at first. But over time, they began to speak. One admitted he never cried, not even at funerals. Another confessed he still couldn't look his white boss in the eye without feeling small. A third whispered that he'd stayed in a relationship that hurt because it was better than being alone. No one interrupted. Malik didn't lead like a teacher. He listened like a brother. Then, the youngest in the room, a wiry teen with hesitant eyes, asked, "How did you know when it was time to walk away?" Malik didn't answer immediately. He stared into the flickering candle between them, the flame soft and stubborn. "When I realized I didn't need to step up," he said finally, voice steady, "because I was already standing. I just forgot it for a while." Silence settled again. Not awkward, reverent. Malik shared his story not as a victim, but as a mirror. He spoke of Rachel, of the open mic, of feeling like a placeholder until someone better walked in. But he ended not with bitterness, but this: "They didn't break me. They just couldn't see me." Laughter broke out after someone cracked a joke about unlearning toxic masculinity and still enjoying rom-coms. The room shifted lighter now, easier. Someone lit more candles. Malik looked around and saw something Rachel's eyes never held. Reflection, not projection. He hadn't rebuilt himself. He had remembered himself. Outside, the city hummed. But in that circle, something deeper pulsed like freedom, passed hand to hand, without needing to be explained. Malik smiled, letting the moment settle in his bones. He wasn't healing to become someone new. He was returning to the man he'd always been.